Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the top 6 mistakes that people make when they're creating messaging. And so this is all based on my experience over the last 20 years working with various teams to create messaging, either creating it organically or having receiving messaging from product marketing teams and then polishing it to make sure it's ready for external distribution. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to go over. It's all listed in my blog, so take a look over there. It's all written out. But first, what I'm going to start out is the biggest mistake that I think everybody makes, and is not talking to our customers. That may seem like a dumb moment, like, oh, the customers are where we should be focusing our efforts. But what a lot of teams overlook is having that regular cadence with customers to find out why they purchased your service, how they're using it, and what is the value they're deriving. And so these should be point blank questions that we're asking customers, because that information is hugely invaluable. And what I often see is that products are usually sold to solve one sort of problem, but when we're talking to customers, we may find that there's different use cases for the product that they're using, and those become fodder or foundation for great messages that we hadn't thought about using. So make sure you're talking to customers, talk to them on a regular basis, set aside an hour or two every month so that you're talking to different customers. You want to vary who you're talking to, whether it be, in your target audience, you're going to have to establish, is it going to be an enterprise, a small business? Is it a practitioner or user, or is it the decision maker, the higher level person who oversees the product as part of the portfolio they're supporting? But get a smattering of those opinions and those options, so that you know what people are looking for, especially as you align it to your audiences. The second biggest mistake, and there's one and two I list in the blog, is being too feature focused or conflating features and benefits. Those kind of go hand in hand. So if your product messaging or your messaging is all only focused on the features, like it does X or it does Y, that's so specific that you're eliminating all of the other features and functionalities and the value that somebody is deriving. Also, don't conflate features with benefits. This is a conversation I've had repeatedly over the last 20 years, is that a feature is not a benefit. And if you are listing a feature and expecting the customer, the person who's seeing your content, and you're basically asking them to interpret what the benefit or the value that they're going to get from that feature. It might seem obvious to you whether or not what they should be deriving from that, but don't make the customer work for it. Tell them the benefit that they're going to get from using your product or your service. You have to create this sense of excitement in the customer. And if they know that it can improve their life, it can make them better, it can make them have higher standing in the company, that they'll be able to get their work done faster and focus on these other things that they've kind of left on off the side because they can never get to it dealing with this particular problem. Highlight all of that, make sure, and then rotate your messages. Don't always have the same message when you're talking to customers. As I said in the first step, is you are going to get lots of different information, lots of different messages that you can use. Play with those messages and make sure that they're benefit focused to see which one hits and which one resonates the most with your different audiences. So again, don't conflate features with benefits. They are not the same thing, and my blog goes into what's the difference. So the third point that I make in my message is, or in my blog, is to not have the message be so high level that nobody understands what exactly it does. Also, this goes hand in hand with applying, if you have two different audiences, say for instance you have your messaging to a decision maker, or somebody high up in the organization like a CISO or CFO or whatever that is, and you also are going after the users or the practitioners of your product, do not use one message to apply to both. If you use one message to apply to the high level people, it will not apply to the user. Or do not have a message that is applied to the user that will apply to then the decision maker. What you're then doing is diluting your message to the point where it doesn't apply to anyone. It's not specific, and there's no clarity. Nowadays people want something that speaks to them, that is customized and personalized to them. So in conflating those messages or being so high level and generic that nobody understands what you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're throwing a lot of money down the drain in how you're promoting your product. The next one is, do not look at your competitors' information or your competitors' messages to determine your own. Because what your mind does automatically is you look at the competitors and it limits the creativity you have for your product, and it eliminates the ability for you to articulate the benefit your particular product brings to the market or to your users. The competitor now has set the benchmark for you, and that is going to be detrimental to your business because you're always trying to keep up with them or better up them, and you should be looking at what your product does. If it's a great product market fit for what you're doing, those messages should come and they should not be influenced by your competitors. You should always check your messages after you've created them without looking at the competitor. Once you've created them, you can look at the competitor and say, oh, okay, we are differentiated enough. But choose your differentiation based on your product, not your competitor's product. And the last one, the last one is refresh that messaging on a consistent basis. One of the things that I see on a regular in working in multiple businesses is that messaging seldom changes. People create messaging because it is a lot of hard work to create messages and get a messaging doc and make sure that it's tight and that you've optimized for this. But if you are not refreshing on a regular basis, you're falling behind. Everybody is going to be catching up on your messages, catching up to you in what you've said. You are ignoring the increased value and capabilities and benefits that the update to your product is now putting out in the market. So you don't have to change your messaging based on how frequently you update your product. So SaaS businesses on a regular basis will update their product pretty frequently, whether it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, every quarter there's an update. That's a lot to update, but you should at least be looking at your messaging twice a year and making sure that you have captured the nuances of what's happened in your product and putting that out externally. It may happen more frequently if you're doing significant updates with significant benefits for your customers. Then you need to take a look at your messaging and update that. But please do not wait 1 year, 2 years, or anything like that to update your messages, because you're going to be falling behind and people are not going to take interest in what you're doing. So stay current, stay relevant, and make sure that it's messaging that resonates with your customers. So again, take a look at my blog. There's a lot more detail in there than what I went over. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them.